Hey guys, this is the next part of the build here, and I'm going to be working on some steering. So you already got a head jump on making this. This is a wheel bearing down there. It's just the center of a rim. Actually, you can see the two sides, and then I welded some washers and stuff so the bolts go through the plate, and then it comes to the pitman arm. The pitman arm has a little hem joint right there. The whole thing moves. And I'll be doing some tilt steering. You see I got the other half of the rim here with the bushing, and that'll slide up and down or wherever I want to place that, and that'll be attached to the two posts here for the steering column. And this is my tilt steering. This is from a steering box, and there was two U-joints. There's another, like a shaft, and then a U-joint a couple inches ahead of it, but I took a hacksaw in the junkyard and I cut the end of the steering box off, so that gets me these splines, and then it pinches with this bolt here, and then you got your U-joints in here. So I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to make some tilt steering here and my whole steering column. You'll be taking this piece, which just this little stubby piece about an inch long of the splines here, and be welding that to the shaft there. And then I'll be able to take this bolt out, and it might not be the easiest, but I'll be able to yank the spline part out of this U-joint knuckle here. So I'm going to get to welding this up and start making some supports for my bushings and holding the actual steering wheel. Well, as you can see, the spline portion is welded on there and the bushing is still there. I'll be making some kind of removable clamp just to hold this to the plate, and I added this piece of flat stock, basically. I mean, kind of like an angle iron, I guess, but I gave it a little bend, a little peak bend in the middle to kind of bring it away, so it was at the correct position and far away enough for the U-joint not to hit the shroud. And I welded that, so that should hold up the column, these posts pretty good. And so for the spline part, took the U-joints and I cut the steering shaft to appropriate length, and as you can see, that goes through a piece of sheet metal that's welded on top. This used to be a big hole. The U-joint itself is just a big hole, so I took a piece of sheet metal, welded the post to the sheet metal on this side so there's no weld there. So it goes through a hole, welded on the other side, and then it's welded to the U-joint itself. See, there's spline parts for the steering wheel itself. So you take this, so you can still run a bolt through this and clamp it to the spline part. So it comes on, that drops on like there, and then I just got to position it. So got that, and how I'm going to support that part is these. This is the other rim. Still got to clean it up a little bit, but these are the other 5/8, and these just slip over this steering shaft like there we go, like so. And then steering wheel goes on top of that and bolts on there. So I just gotta, so I can weld to this, but I just gotta make some kind of mounts, which is gonna be tricky to actually kind of make it look good and also be in the same kind of position. I'm thinking about running some kind of bar just like this one from here to here, and then some kind of like vertical upright, and then those will have two holes drilled in it for bolts and stuff. So I can just take the bolts out, this will slip out, take the steering wheel off, this will slip off, the whole U-joint will come off the top. Still got to make a dash though, so I'm going to have the bar going across, and then probably all over that I'll have a dash, but I'll have to cut the hood and then make an outline of where the hood itself, like your top and that, so I want that to fit to the hood, and I also want the key start to be in the dash, which is right here. So I mean, there's kind of a lot of wiring involved with the twin cylinders and having two coils and stuff like that, and I already cut all the safety switches out of it, so that'll be kind of implanted in the dash. And I just gotta get working on positioning this, and I just gotta kind of sit on this thing and make sure I like where it is, and then it should be done. But tilt steering coming along nicely. Alright, so you can see I've made this green brace here, and that holds the bushing, just pinches it there, and it's just some studs, some bolts I welded there, kind of act like studs, and some holes through it, and put this bracket on that pinches it, and cinch it down, so it works pretty good. And then I got the bolt in here. You can see how this is tapered, and it's pinching this together so these threads aren't going to go anywhere. And up here you can see I've added a brace from this to there, and that just has a brace that comes down, hugs it, and that's got holes in it. Bolts run through that, run through this bracket that's welded to here. The sleeve for the steering wheel, and the threads come up, and it all works out really well. Put the steering wheel on. It's not going to be like a quick disconnect, it's just how it is, but turn it for you. As you can see, I've redid my steering. I'll show you that later, but just for everything that working. So there's your tilt steering, and see how much better that looks from, I call it bar stool racing kind of look to it. If it's just straight up and down, that's not really comfortable or good for handling. But my hood is going to be about an inch above these, so it's going to be up, and I'm going to have to cut a little slot for this, but it's not really a big deal. But hood's going to be there, so I guess that kind of sticks up a little bit, but not really a big deal. So I'm going to get on, show you the steering on this thing. So onto the direct steer here, you can see my pitman arm, and that goes to the rod here. It's got rod end here, heim joints, and that's a aluminum rod from the snowmobile that I pulled these rod ends off, and I just bent that up and rethreaded it, cut it, rethreaded it, and it works pretty good. It runs under the engine, the actual steering arm, because there's no room underneath the frame, so it runs right under the engine. This is fully turned like that, so the rod is going to be up as much as it can, so it's going to measure, and it should miss the crankshaft. If it doesn't, I'll just have to bend it or clearance or something like that. But as you can see, straighten this back out here, and that comes down to another snowmobile part, and this snowmobile part has the two holes for the rod ends, the tie rods, and then it's got a 7/8 bolt that runs through it. It's got bushings in it. It's also got a grease zerk. You can see the grease zerk there, and that bolt, that 7/8 bolt, comes up through, threads into this nut. Nut's welded to the washer, that's welded to the frame, and got a jam nut on top, so you can crack this jam nut off, loosen it, bolt threads out this one, and this whole thing drops out. Modified the little arm that comes off there. Show you how this works here. So that works around there good. It's kind of a pain getting that arm to work just right, but it's important that I got this because it has the two holes which are perfectly measured, and I freaking hate drilling stuff, so it probably wouldn't have ended up as good. But I modified the frame there so it's clearanced, and this comes up far enough above the frame, and it's got the two holes in it, and these run through that. And that's important because when you turn this all the way to one way, this rod is being pulled more than this one is, and that's called Ackerman, or however you want to pronounce it. But you can see how much that's turned versus how much this is turned, and that's good for steering. This one's going to pull, the inside one's going to pull harder than this one, and it would be all sorts of badness if this one wasn't turning. You'd kind of, the posi would push this thing forward and probably jump and skid, and it's not good. So Ackerman is a very overlooked feature of steering geometry. But I shortened these tie rods about 4.5 inches both each, and these are adjustable too. These are from the Chinese ATV. I pulled the front brakes off, but you see it's got castle nuts there. I have jam nuts there. They're all tie rods. I'll just show you a quick demo here. So, there's my direct steer, there's my tilt steering, there's my steering wheel. Steering's all finished, and just another piece that is done in the whole puzzle of the build. So, thanks for watching, and subscribe.